Okay, welcome to HDFS 492, our capstone on evidence-based program proposals. This class is fondly known as Senior Seminar. And I have been teaching this class ever since I started 14 years ago. I bet I've taught this class more than 20 times. However, it did undergo a redesign that was effective recently, and so there are some slight changes to the course and things that I'm still building and getting worked out. Okay, here's my contact information. It's best to just email me. You can also do it through Canvas email. They both end up in the same place. My office hours this semester will be virtual, and you can access them through a Google sign-up sheet on the course homepage, and I'm available over phone or Microsoft Teams.
We have an excellent graduate teaching assistant for this class, and I'll let her introduce herself to you during one of our first classes. This course is scheduled for face-to-face delivery, so unless something changes at the university level, all classes will be held face-to-face and attendance face-to-face is expected. If you anticipate not being able to attend regularly face-to-face, then I encourage you to change to another section if possible, and if not, know that you'll need accommodations in order to miss classes and make up points.
Okay, here's a little bit about me. I grew up in Gainesville, Florida, go Gators, but I betrayed my family and went to Florida State University, where I majored in psychology, and then I followed my boyfriend, who's now my husband, out here to Fort Collins, and I worked for a little while actually as a secretary at hospice, and then started a master's degree in marriage and family therapy here at CSU in the HDFS department, and then I worked for 3 years at the CSU Veterinary Teaching Hospital as a grief counselor, facilitating kind of difficult communications between veterinarians and clients and helping people make euthanasia decisions or surgery decisions or supporting them after the death of a companion animal. Then I left Fort Collins for 4 years. We moved to Indiana. I was pregnant with my first kid when I arrived and pregnant with my second kid when I graduated. Again, a department just like this one, HDFS, Human Development and Family Studies, and I specialized again in marriage and family therapy. I moved back here to Fort Collins in 2005, and in 2007 began teaching full-time at CSU in the HDFS department and have been doing it ever since. I teach typically about 4 classes a semester, so I end up teaching a lot of different classes and students. So you can see a picture of my family of origin, and a fun fact about us is that we are all for Dr. Harvey. My brother is the most recent one to have gotten his doctorate of ministry. And then you can see my current family, and my son just graduated from high school and is beginning college at CSU Boulder. So I have lots of empathy for what it's like to be a college student right now. So you may be noticing some of the capstone images that I've got in our Canvas class and be wondering why we keep talking about this being a capstone class. And basically what you can see is that a capstone, is basically the peak or the pinnacle or the top, of an experience. And it's designed to also be a bridge, a supportive structure, basically in between your experience here at CSU, both generally in HDFS, and then launching you into your kind of professional plans after CSU. So you may have heard about, I think most of you have probably heard about HDFS 492, maybe some of you haven't, but basically this is often known as the grant writing class, where you're going to learn how to select an evidence-based program and then write a program proposal that's essentially a grant to get funding to implement that program. As part of this, you'll be giving 2 professional presentations, one to both that are to our class, but one will be, we will be hypothetically the funding board that you're applying to, and the second we will be the population that you're trying to help. As you may have heard, senior seminar is often run in groups, and this class will be all in groups. And so we have 30 people about in the class, and I'm anticipating dividing us into 6 groups of 5. So more on that, more tasks associated with that are happening in the first week of class. Just to give you a sense of how we begin to form proposal topics and sort into groups, we've got listed these proposal topic areas, and you're going to be able to read more about them on Canvas. And for some of our initial assignments, you're going to have a couple of discussions in 2 of these different topic areas so that you can get to know other students, see what kind of common interests you have, see what evidence-based programs exist in these areas, what you might be interested in doing.
This is an unusual class in HDFS in that all of our lecture material is geared towards the written and oral assignments that you're doing. So it's not like you're learning about other things and then taking tests or writing papers on separate things. Everything that we do is geared towards proposal writing and presentations. So what you can see is that in our first few weeks, we basically get ready to begin writing the grants. Choosing what topics you're interested in, getting your groups formed, kind of getting oriented to group work and the tasks that lie ahead. In weeks 4 through 9, you'll begin writing your grant proposal drafts. There's about 12 proposal sections and 2 appendices, and so you're writing about 2 a week. In week 10, you'll be doing small group meetings with me, and I should say that even in weeks 1 through 9, we'll be meeting after lecture material. I'll be meeting with groups to check in. Then in weeks 11 through 13, we'll be having our presentations up to 2 a day. Then we'll have another week where you're meeting with me and working on your final written proposal. And then we've got the final week of class where we've got final reflections and then course evaluations during finals week.
So just to get a sense of, on those presentation weeks, when we've got 2 groups going at the same time, you can basically see that each group does a funding presentation and then a program presentation, and we've got some time for kind of Q&A, breaks, setup, that kind of thing. So the good news is that there's no required external textbooks in this class, and another HDFS 492 instructor, Dr. C.K. Rizzo, has created this pretty fabulous course workbook that other HDFS 492 students have been using and appreciating, and this will be my first semester implementing it.
We are going to be using iClicker Cloud, formerly known as Reef. And so there's instructions on Canvas, both on the button on the home page and also under an assignment during week 1 about getting your iClicker set up. And there's also troubleshooting tips available too. So we'll start using iClicker and counting attendance during week 2. For iClicker, you have to answer all or all but one of the polling questions for full credit. If you're having any issues with your iClicker, feel free to stay after class. Because we're not using remotes, you are going to have to enable geolocation services in order to answer the questions so that the system knows that you're in the classroom. There'll be a couple of days where we've got instructor meetings where we won't be using iClicker, and for those days I'll just simply keep track of who's there and give people the points for that day. You can miss one class without penalty, or if you attend that class that we're going to drop, you could get those extra credit points. You can make up one missed class you can make up additional classes if you have documentation. And we've got a late policies button on the Canvas homepage. And that gives details about all of our policies, and if you scroll down, you'll find the iClicker makeup assignment. I'll be delivering the lecture material face-to-face, and class will also be recorded on Echo 360 so that you can go back and rewatch if you like to review it or if you missed class.
Okay, so we will send out a weekly announcement that will get on Canvas that will get forwarded to your CSU email, and then we often will email you either through your Canvas inbox or through your CSU email. When you're emailing us, just first do us a favor and see if you can't find the answer in recent announcements or on Canvas. And then go ahead and put HDFS 492 Harvey in the subject line. And the reason why we're specifying the instructor is for GTAs who may TA for more than one section of a class. Give your full name and give us 24 to 48 hours, not including weekends, to respond. Note that there are quite a few assignments that are due at midnight. Almost all assignments, I think, are due at midnight, and many of them are due on Sundays to allow for student flexibility, but we're not going to respond to emails in the evenings and on the weekends. So make sure that you kind of plan accordingly and aren't expecting kind of last-minute input. If for some reason you haven't received a Canvas announcement in your email, then go ahead and check your Canvas notifications. One of the downsides of this class are a phenomenal amount of assignments, some bigger, some smaller, group assignments and individual assignments. So many that I couldn't list and explain them all in this PowerPoint presentation. And so you can take a look at them in the assignment chart at the end of the syllabus, and we'll be talking more about them as we move through the class. But what you can see is that about 60% of the class is group work, 40% is individual work, and you also have the opportunity for some extra credit assignments. So at CSU, there's no set grading scale, so for better or for worse, every instructor makes up their own, and this is mine. One thing that I just want to point out is I do give pluses and minuses, and I also do give A pluses. If a student has a 100% or higher, I don't round up from a 99 or a 99.5, it has to be 100% or higher, then I will enter an A plus into the grade system, which is actually an extra step because Canvas and the grade system just defaults to only A's. It doesn't affect your GPA, but it does show up on your transcript, which is nice. So the grade concerns policy just indicates that you should stay on top of your grades, and within a week of us posting the grades, you should be letting us know if there's any issues. This is just to prevent students from kind of coming back to kind of old grades at the end of the semester. So most individual and group assignments can be submitted late in this class with a 5% deduction per day with no end date, with some exceptions. So the research brief, which is due early in the semester, we have a 5-day limit on that for late submission because we want you to be able to contribute to your group's grant proposal sections, which come shortly thereafter. And you also have to complete the research brief in order to remain in your group. The funding presentation in PowerPoint and program presentation PowerPoint, those have to be completed on your scheduled day and submitted. Those are group assignments. And extra credit assignments cannot be submitted late. The final Sunday of the last week of class, so that's the Sunday at the end of week 15, is the last day to submit all late assignments. If you want to have late penalties waived, then we need documentation from one of these 4 places: Student Case Management, Student Disability Center, Religious Accommodations, or Women and Gender Advocacy. And there's a button on the Canvas course homepage called Late Policies, which walks through these and talks about how to submit things late with documentation. Okay, so a little word about group work, which is the heart of this class, and COVID-19. So students last semester reported some pressure in classes that had group projects to attend group meetings face-to-face, and also that health protocols like wearing masks and social distancing were often not followed at group meetings. So the college has instigated some new group guidelines, which are that there shouldn't be any pressure from instructors or group members for everyone to meet face-to-face. If everyone is comfortable meeting face-to-face, then students need to follow health protocols, and students should also just consider virtual options for meetings like Microsoft Teams or Zoom. Okay. we all kind of have had positive and negative experiences in groups. My general experience is that most of the time 492 groups work really, really well together because it's such a big project and people tend to prioritize it in ways that they might not other group projects. However, if you're having difficulty, you want to try to communicate quickly, respectfully, and directly, right? So the more you kind of let things pile up, the harder it is going to be to say something, because the angrier or more frustrated or more irritated you're going to be, and the more tension there's going to have built up. You also want to put on your family systems hat, right, and think systemically and pay attention to how some of us can be overfunctioners and some of us can be underfunctioners, and kind of watch and monitor yourself in a group setting. You want to give group members the benefit of the doubt, like, okay, maybe you didn't get a chance to to share what you thought because I was talking so much, or I know you've had a lot going on and some stress, but I'm guessing you're planning on getting to this. That's also kind of related to the one down stance, like it could be me. The more you can be specific, I thought you had agreed to do the first draft of the problem statement by Thursday, so I had blocked out my Friday to review it, and now it's not done, and that's creating challenges, for me, or that's going to make things difficult for me. I'm always happy to brainstorm with you if you are experiencing difficulties. I'm also always happy to help mediate or communicate with group members, either, well, in this case, it'll be virtually. And of course, worst case scenario, groups can fire a group member if you have engaged me and the mediation kind of hasn't been successful. I've not had to fire a group member, but occasionally, very rarely, it does happen in 492 groups. What that would mean is the student could either drop the class or they could complete the assignments on their own, all of them. I do want to give you a heads up that I pretty frequently have to file plagiarism reports with the Academic Integrity Office, and these are all the reasons that I end up having to do that. And it's usually because people are either taking things too closely word for word from another source, or they're not using quotation marks, or they're taking information from a source and they're not citing it or giving credit. So the APA PowerPoint and the APA and plagiarism quiz will help kind of clarify this, and hopefully you won't end up in this situation. So there's a detailed resource list on Canvas with links to all this, and these are also described in the syllabus. So I encourage you to check them out and let me know if additional resources are needed. I just want to highlight the CSU Principles of Community. I really like these: inclusion, integrity, respect, service, and social justice. I'll be trying to hold myself to these standards, and you as well. If you think I'm falling short or we are falling short, I hope that you'll reach out and let me know. I'm so glad that mental health issues are becoming less stigmatized and people are more comfortable talking about them. And so I just want to contribute to that and encourage you to reach out and get help. I've done lots of my own personal therapy across the course of my life, and I highly recommend it. And also, just to kind of elaborate on that, there's a number of different mental health and well-being resources through the CSU workshop. So more than just traditional kind of one-on-one therapy, there can also be workshops, groups, crisis intervention, support around substances, and kind of psychoeducational skills building workshops, online tools. So lots of things to check out. If you haven't already completed the Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging module, I encourage you to check that out and complete it. Great, you made it to the very end of the welcome PowerPoint. Lots of tedious information. Thanks for hanging in there, and just reach out if you have any questions.